Hello and welcome back to another episode of Charla Football. I'm your host, as always, Gerardo Gerry Tavares, accompanied, as always, as well by Tomas Estrada. Tomas, how are you doing today?
Doing perfect, bro. Just here, just getting ready to get into it.
All right. And then, of course, I know I've mentioned this on the podcast before that I wanted to bring a new face into Charla Football. And finally, Jonathan is a little bit more available for us since he's in his going into summer break, basically. So, Jonathan, welcome to Charla Football, bro. I hope you can take more time and to be with us. But how are you doing today? And what are you looking forward to being with us?
Good, good. Like just like Gerry said, finally have some more time on my hands, able to hop on the pod. I'm over here helping with little few things behind the scenes, but now you could put myself on the stream or on the podcast, like you said. So hopefully things going on forward. We could all start doing all three of us in the pod. So yeah, thanks for having me, bro. Finally.
Yeah, I know. I think you're watching the Liverpool game, right? You have it on your side.
On right now, 3-1. Liverpool's up, 75th minute. 15 more minutes to go. Going to make things definitely interesting tomorrow for the Man City game. So I'll keep you guys in contact with that, what's going on and everything as we're doing the pod.
Yeah, because that's obviously going to be the first thing that we talk about since the title race is still ongoing. So we're going to talk about Man City, Liverpool. I mean, Liverpool basically out, but mainly Man City and Arsenal. So we're going to talk about the Prem, but then we're going to look at the Liga MX, Liguilla, since I know we have kind of strayed away from that for a while. I think it's been a few weeks since we've talked about it. But right. The quarterfinals had already happened this weekend, and we're going to move into the semifinals. So we're going to look at that and some of the storylines there. We're going to look at the Mexico 31 pre-roster for the Copa America, give our little takes there. And then obviously we have to talk about the elephant going on in world football, which is the whole Mbappe saga. I mean, everybody knows that he was going to go to Madrid or at least leave PSG. So it's probably one of the worst kept secrets out in football right now. But let's just start with the Prem. So I know you said you're watching the game right now, but a game that happened over the weekend was City versus Fulham, where City completely just thrashed Fulham 4-0. And we already kind of get this from Man City when it comes to this point of the season, like the business end of the season, they're always in the hardest form. I know Tomas pays attention to that. I know you guys pay a lot of attention to that. So, I mean, did you guys watch the Fulham game?
I did, yeah.
Not fully, but I did see obviously the recap, and just like everyone expected, Man City beat them. Even though it's in Fulham, did you really think they were going to stop them?
Yeah.
Everyone can have hope. Everyone that hates Man City is like, hey, hopefully, they get at least a point taken off. But come on, they're like on the hot streak right now. Fulham's not a team to be known to stop big teams, unfortunately, and we all knew it would come to it. So
they've been struggling a lot. I know Tomas had to kind of look more into that. Tomas, what did you think about that game?
I mean, it was just one of those games where that City's going to take it. And it's really what it is what happened, because City just was the better side. It created more chances, more quality, and they defended much better than Fulham did throughout the whole 90 minutes. And it was just a game where City had to win. They came and did just that. And there's really not much you could actually say about it.
Yeah, a City team that moving forward, I think they have one game left, right? They have that last game against... No, they have 2 games left because they had that game in hand. So they have that game against Tottenham, and then I forgot that last game that they have. But for sure, against Tottenham is probably the most talked about game that's going on, especially going with the Liverpool versus Aston Villa game that Jonathan's currently watching right now. So that there's a lot to play for in that game. I think you said if Liverpool beat Aston Villa, then the Spurs have the advantage. They're going to have that confidence to definitely take on City and fight for that top 4 spot. But if Aston Villa get the win, which is looking unlikely since there's only a few minutes remaining on the game, then, I mean, it's already secured for Aston Villa to be in Champions League ball, but it's looking like Liverpool's going to take that. But going back to Tottenham and Man City, that's a match that always is a struggle for City, especially at White Hart Lane. I know we had mentioned that they haven't won, right, Jonathan?
Yeah, so at the new Spurs Stadium, they haven't won a Premier League game. So they won a cup game there, but obviously that's aside the Premier League, different squads. You can't really say the same thing about it. But like I said, past 10 matches, head to head, Tottenham's won 5, Man City's won 4. They've also drawn 1. But Tottenham has always made things shaky for Man City. They haven't been in the best form lately, but down to history wise, they've always made it tougher for Man City.
Yeah, I feel like Tottenham have kind of just went down. They started off so hot, and then just once they started getting some injuries, it just went straight down from there.
Exactly, caught up to them eventually. Like I said, right now only 10 minutes remaining in this Liverpool Aston Villa game. Aston Villa looks flattened. Just like last week against Olympiacos. They just weren't looking at themselves at the beginning of the season, unfortunately for them. But like I said, Liverpool, they want to keep that top 4 position. Aston Villa, now that they're right above Spurs, tomorrow Spurs are going to come out with that fire. Like, hey, if we win tomorrow or potentially get a point against City, we have that opportunity to play Champions League football next season. Because, of course, having the squad they have, the history they have, I mean, they're just in a final 5 years ago. Like, they want to be back in the top flight of football,
Of course, yeah.
Like I said, right now, the way things are looking, Liverpool's just dominating them in their own place. And, yeah, I think, like, tomorrow's going to be a very exciting game already, besides the fact,
How about let's throw on a little prediction in there? What do you guys think for that Tottenham and City game?
City wins 2-0.
Wait. Hold on. One person first. Tomas, you first.
City wins 2-0.
City wins 2-0?
Yeah, it's 3-0. Actually 3-1. Maybe
3-1?
2.
All right. What about you, Jonathan? What you thinking?
I'm going for a 2-2, man, a 2-2 draw. I think it's going to be an exciting match where Spurs are up 2-1, but then City's always going to find a way to come back. And it's going to come down to the wire where, it's going to be gut-wrenching, nail-biting game. But at the end of the day, I think it's going to come down to 2. Since, once again, Liverpool, I'm pretty sure this game.
Yeah, I like that 2-2 draw because I feel like we've seen that before between these two teams. I think that was the only draw that they had was a 2-2 draw, I think.
Right.
I mean, when Tottenham was healthy, their best result was a tie. And now we're into like a deeper part of the Prem where it's just practically impossible to stop City. I mean, in 33 matches, they haven't lost one. They got knocked out by Real Madrid, but that was on a draw. And I just don't see Tottenham even competing with City this game. I mean, if you look at their recent form, they don't really even start playing till the last 20-25 minutes.
That's true. That's
again,
true.
City, like the first, if you give City 70 minutes to do whatever they want to do with the ball, they're gonna score 2 to 3 goals.
I can see that, but I guess just given our recent history, I know it's really hard to base a current form off of history, but I think based on that, I would go for the drop. But I guess we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with his take. Spurs lately, they haven't been their best selves. I mean, against Arsenal, they were down 3-0 in their own stadium. And it wasn't until like that last half, like second half, where they wanted to, really like kick up the engine and start playing really well. But unfortunately for them, it was already too late. Arsenal had a foot down. They were up 3-0. Of course, they scored 2 goals. But, you got to make 3. And if you want to win, especially, you got to make another one. And maybe that'll be the case tomorrow. Man City will come out firing. And then by the time Spurs wants to, play at their best level, it'll be too late.
Yeah.
And like I said, like that home advantage does play a big part in it. For example, like yesterday, Arsenal was at Man United. And they only won 1-0. They were struggling, even though they've been really well. But Arsenal's not no Man City. Like they're their own team. Their own depth is crazy. They can hit you from anywhere. I mean, we're seeing Guardiola scoring goals, and he's a center back. He's a defender.
Yeah, that's true.
He's playing like Gundogan last season, and it's really hard to stop this team. And I'll be surprised if they somehow make the draw. I mean, it is my prediction, but I mean, we're all seeing that Man City is a heavily favored one to win here. So
no, yeah, I completely agree. Now, kind of flipping the table and going to the bottom half of the table. There's a lot of stuff going on right there. Obviously, Burnley are relegated. Sheffield's one of the worst teams that we've seen in the Prem so far. And you had mentioned that they broke the Premier League record for most goals conceded.
Yeah, 101 goals, the most scored on team in a single Premier League season in the present format. And there's not really much we could say. Hopefully Sheffield United makes improvements in the championship and are able to come back soon because they are a team that I'm used to seeing in the Prem.
But that sucks. I mean, I think they're one of the worst scored on teams. Also, Manchester United, they recently broke that history of most goals getting scored against as well, with like 81 goals or something like that. So it's just crazy stats to see. I think we also saw Nottingham Forest and Luton. They're fighting that relegation battle too. I think Luton is the one that's most likely going to be the one that's going down, right?
Yeah, definitely. Like I said, I was talking about you guys earlier, how the goal differential is 12 goals. I mean, it's not impossible. I mean, it is football. At the end of the day, anything can happen.
Yeah.
But come on, like 6 goals, winning by 6 goals, and then losing by 6 goals, and it's gonna be tough.
Yeah, no, of course. It's most likely.
Yeah, unfortunately, just as much as we all love Luton Town, it's a great team, exciting team. It's a brand new team that none of us might have heard of before this season. Unfortunately, the likes of their seasons are coming to an end, and they're going to go back down to the championship. Hopefully, just like Tomas said with Sheffield, they can come back next season stronger. They have a great coach, a big fan base we saw, and just hope for the best with them next. I mean, we're not counting them out yet. Like I said, anything can happen.
But just like 12, like 12-0, bro. I don't see that possible, honestly.
Me either. But hopefully next season. But I mean, Villa just scored right now. Wenger, it looks like it was, not sure if it was Diaby, but the score is now 3-2 with 5 minutes remaining. That's not counting extra time.
It was a Duran.
Yeah, what a goal! Left-footed strike right outside the box.
It's gonna be a shaky last few minutes for Liverpool. So that fight for top 4 is gonna start heating up a little bit. I'm sure Tottenham fans are probably shitting bricks a little bit, but
like you said earlier, like a lot of Tottenham fans want City to beat them. Just the crosstown rivals Arsenal don't get a chance at grasping their hands in the Premier League.
That sucks. I saw Postecoglou talk about, like, if you're one of those fans that are saying, like, wishing your own team to lose, then you're not a real fan, basically.
Yeah, at the end of the day, you want your team to win, and we could all say it makes sense. They don't want the crosstown rival to win, but I mean, it's your team. Don't you want to play Champions League football? Do you really want to go out on a loss at your own home? The end of the season is coming up. Like, no one wants to wait till next season to start all over again. Like, no, if you got a chance right now, do it.
Dude, take it. Take it. Yeah, exactly.
That could be you next year, fighting for that first position, which we have seen Tottenham many times in the past, especially that season when Leicester won. They're on their tail the whole time. But, maybe next season, why not try again and then play Champions League football at the same time? That way you attract the players you want.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, lastly, another European competition that's still in for contention is the Conference League. I know Newcastle, Chelsea are fighting for that spot. Who do you guys think takes it?
I say with Chelsea's recent form, we all know them. I mean, they made a big jump from being 11th place most of the season. Recently having those wins, of course, we all know about Cole Palmer, who's been having an extraordinary season. And the likes of Nkunku just returned. They finally got Reece James back for the first time since December. It was good to see him out there, with all the right backs they have, the likes of Malo Gusto and Reece James. Reece James is always a favorite to want to play. So really good to see them back. Thankfully, they're healthy for them. But Newcastle has been doing well as, they've been playing their game. Alexander Isak has been back on form, scoring goals almost every game. I believe he scored the last one as well. And, like I said, everything's to play for this weekend coming up. That's the thing about the Prem. The season doesn't end until the season ends. Like, of course, there's those years where, like, okay, in a month ahead, 2 months ahead, like, everyone's right now saying City's going to win. But, of course, like, you don't know what's going to happen. It's football. But exciting times coming up for the final week. We're going to see who's going to get relegated, who's going to be the champion, who's going to get the Conference League, who's going to get the Europa League, Champions League. So it's all to play for, man. It's just exciting times coming up for football fans all around the world. So,
especially for Prem fans, for sure. What about you, Tomas? Who got Newcastle or Chelsea getting that Conference League spot, bro?
I would have to say I think Chelsea might be able to, because they do have a weaker schedule coming up. Not in the terms that they're not playing nobodies, but Chelsea coming up has Brighton and Bournemouth, while Newcastle has to face the likes of Manchester United, and they also have to face Manchester United away and Brentford away. So you got 2 away games. While Chelsea
Aston Villa just tied it up right now.
You're lying.
Just tied it up 3-3.
Oh yeah, was braced by John Duran.
I'm sorry to cut you off, but
nah, you're good, bro.
Like I said, you never know what's gonna happen. 10 minutes remaining.
I was literally just saying that Liverpool was for sure gonna win the game. It's like only 15 minutes left, but now it's tied. Maybe they can even make a comeback for 3. Liverpool is crumbling. What does this mean? If they tie, does that mean that they still qualify for Champions League ball, or it's still up in the air till the last game?
So what I saw that Spurs is at 63, Aston Villa is at 67, so they tied it at 68. Spurs will have to win the last 2 with Villa losing the last one.
So practically Villa's in the Prem. I mean, in the Champions League.
In the Champions League.
Exactly. Yeah, Villa's in the Champions League. There's no way that they lose the next 2 games. I mean, the next 2 fixtures are against. Sorry, their next fixture is against Crystal Palace away.
That's gonna be a difficult one though, because Crystal have been in good form, especially that one player, Michael Olise. He's been balling up, and a lot of people.
And Eze up top.
Yeah, but I think, in my how I see football, I feel like Aston Villa has a better chance of beating Crystal Palace away than Tottenham has a chance of beating Man City at home.
At home, yeah, I can see where you're coming from on that. But that kind of wraps up with the Prem talk. Obviously, I think Jonathan will keep us updated if anything else comes up.
Definitely.
But now moving towards the Liga MX, like I said, the quarterfinals had finally wrapped up over the weekend, and we saw a lot of crazy games. Obviously, America Pachuca, a game that we've seen already a handful of times this season. Chivas Toluca, Cruz Azul Pumas, Monterrey versus Tigres in the Clásico Regio. Let's start off with America Pachuca because that was the game that everyone was looking at and was like, oh, for sure, America is going to get kicked out. I know Tomas had that prediction that Pachuca was going to go through. I was on the other side of the table saying that America would have learned from the mistakes and would be the best team overall and get through. But
none of that happened.
Well, that's because technically the only way they passed through was because their standings. But that's pretty much it. Not because they beat them or they were the better team. I think if we're looking on the field, I think Pachuca were the better team, but they were just wasteful in that first leg at home. Completely just obliterated America that first like 60, 70 minutes. Honestly, I could say the whole game, but really where you saw Pachuca stepping up was that first half where they had like 3, 4, 5 clear-cut opportunities to just complete the tie, right there, make it like 5-0 if they wanted to. But they kept America alive, and that's the thing that you can't do with big teams like that is you cannot keep them alive because at some point they're going to bite you in the ass, and that's basically what happens. They tie it. At Hidalgo, they move to the Estadio Azteca. Pachuca are winning throughout the whole match, and in a questionable moment when there was 8 minutes of extra time added, then America find that goal that ultimately qualifies them for the semifinals.
Yeah, I mean it's really a questionable how that whole event went down because. Okay, so there's 8 minutes added at first, and I was scrolling through TikTok, seeing things, and everybody's saying the same thing through Twitter. Why 8 minutes? Like when we're 8 minutes wasted, like why is it 8 minutes long? Like okay, maybe because really I didn't see a waste of 8 minutes unless they're counting every second that was wasted. Then maybe you'll add it up to 8 minutes, but that's usually not how football works. There's really a term that where a minute is added for maybe every sub or
for sure the subs and like if they score a goal in celebration, right?
And people were saying if they took that into consideration, it would be an estimated of 4 to 5 minutes, not 8 minutes. But America comes getting the goal in, I think it was the 93rd, 94th minute.
I think it was 94th for sure.
94th minute. So I mean it comes into that 4th minute, but the thing is that the play starts off a throw-in that was for Pachuca that Pachuca deserved because an America player had hit it out. Now there's another controversy right there because the linesman is right in front of the play. Like the ball's not behind the player; it's really facing the linesman, and the America player kicks it out. The Pachuca player is like really saying like, "What are you calling?" Like
it's our ball.
He's looking directly at him. You saw the whole play.
Yeah.
And the America player obviously, takes it out. The play ends up in a goal. Obviously, like 6 to 7 passes later. But it's definitely something that could have really impacted the game and changed it. Given the fact that Pachuca gets that throw and, their whole team comes up because they were really deep in their box, really only playing on the counter. The whole team comes up. You waste about 2 to 3 minutes more, maybe it's the 97th. And given into consideration, maybe with the ball higher up the field, Pachuca is able to come out with a higher block, not with a block that's so low since they're taking out so quick. It's a controversy, and as the linesman, you'd have to be. I don't want the linesman anywhere near a semifinal or a final. Like he's proven that he's not capable of being able to distinguish a play that's really in front of him.
Yeah, such a simple play too.
Yeah, what makes you think he'd be able to distinguish a play that's more complicated or that? A corner kick that was deserved. Is he really going to fall into the pressure of the stadium again? Because obviously these America fans are asking, they're screaming that it's their ball. So the ref is, I don't know if he's listening to them. I don't know what he's thinking at this moment. But it seems like he let the pressure of the stadium get to him and went with America.
Yeah, that's just unfortunate. Just these. It's the small, minuscule mistakes that really can shape a whole tie. And I mean, we can debate whether it was deserved for America to go through or for Pachuca to go through, but I don't think there's any doubt that Pachuca have made an amazing tournament. I and just have had an amazing season overall. Given like the youngsters and what the coaching has done, the coaching staff, and where they're at right now in the CONCACAF Champions League final. I guess it would be maybe it's like a blessing in disguise for them. Now they can put their full attention towards that and representing Mexico at the highest level, which is trying to get to that Club World Cup. But ultimately, yes, America is the one that goes through, and they are actually going to be facing Chivas, who Chivas took on Toluca, beat them at home in Guadalajara, and got a draw at the Nemesio Diaz in Toluca in a very entertaining matchup. A game where the goalkeeper Tala Rangel had over 7 saves, I think, something like that.
Seven saves.
Yeah, so good day for betting. I know you guys were probably betting on that game, or one of you I know for sure did. So good game for betting. But it was a very much a back and forth matchup, but a lot of controversial calls too. I mean, was it offside? Was it onside? I think ultimately it was the right choice and the right decision to be called an offside for Alexis Vega. That goal that he scored, that I know a lot of people have been trolling him for because of his celebration, and that's something that I did want to get into. Do you guys think he took that celebration too far? Because I mean, you look at the entirety of his career, what he's done at Chivas, what Chivas has done for him. Getting him to that kind of getting to play for la Selección Mexicana, but nothing really transpired there at Chivas. But now he's back at Toluca and he's trying to find that form. He scores the goal that he thought was the goal that got Toluca into that semifinal, but ultimately, like I said, it was offside. Did he take the celebration too far? That's what I want to know.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it was just people complained about Dembélé celebrating versus Barcelona. This was next level. He took his shirt off. He was running. He was screaming. He started tearing up. He started getting on his knees, praying to the heavens. I don't know what he was thinking. Like he had completed life at that point.
I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of inner frustration that he just felt he had to get out. Yeah, but I don't even think he thought that he was offside. And then the referee obviously checks it, VAR checks it, and it was clearly offside. I think it was the Chivas defender that people had thought he was the one that like poked it out to Alexis Vega, which would have kept him onside. But even if it was just an accidental touch, it would have been still considered offside according to the law.
According to the law, yeah. If I think it was a center forward or the winger.
Mm-hmm.
Since he poked it forward, even if it hits off the defender, it's offside because his intention was to go forward.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, according to the law, that's what the law is. Is it right? Is it wrong? I think it's right because if I were to give a through ball to an offsides person because the defender touches it a little bit, it should still be counted offside because my intention was to go forward.
Mm-hmm. Right. So yeah, I agree. I think it was ultimately offside. But let's talk about Chivas real quick because Chivas are pretty hot. Like I said, they're probably the hottest team in the Liga right now. They haven't lost in like the past few games. I don't know exactly how many games. I think Tomas might know a little bit better than me.
Yeah, it's been about I think they haven't lost in 9 games.
Mm-hmm.
Since they beat America at the Estadio Azteca 3-2, they haven't lost a single match. And in those 9 games, they've only received 4 goals, where it was 2 at the Estadio Azteca and 2 that they received in a Puebla matchup, where they were leading 3-0 and they kind of let their foot off the gas. Made a couple of, in my eyes, silly subs, which really cost them at the end, where Puebla were able to get 2 quick goals, obviously pushing forward that Puebla was not trying to get into the last 3 zones where, since there's no more relegation, you get a multa or how would it be, like
a fine? Yeah,
a fine. You get fined. And obviously, Puebla's owners have come out recently saying, telling the players, instead of getting this fine, if you make it out of this, we'll give you guys some money for it.
Little bonus.
Just trying to avoid that fine, but silly mistakes. 2 goals right there. 2 goals in the Estadio Azteca. Obviously, silly mistakes as well. So in the last 9 games, they've received 4 goals, and I think in the last 7 games they've received, it was a 2 at Puebla, obviously, but they have not lost in 9 games.
Yeah, no, honestly, it's a pretty good feat. And that's the kind of form that you want to go into when you're going into playoffs. I think any team would want to go into. We saw the same thing in the World Cup when Argentina were going undefeated into the World Cup. Yeah, they lost the first game. in the opening match. But then we saw that kind of is something that they needed. But going back to Liguilla, like I said, yeah, Chivas are in form, and now they're going to be looking to use that form against America, who they're going to be facing up in El Super Clásico. So that's a good game to look out for. We'll give our predictions just a little bit after, but let's
talk a little bit about Toluca. Toluca coming into this tournament, they had 38 goals. They were the best offensive team.
Yeah, they were in first place at some point for sure.
The team that scored the most goals throughout the tournament. And then in these last two games against Chivas, they're not able to score nothing in 180 minutes. Is that worrying for Toluca going into the future? Does that prove how solid this Chivas defense is? Where are we getting at with this?
Well, I think it proves definitely that Chivas have a solid defense because they've definitely solidified it with the return of Tibu Sepulveda coming back. Not Tiba. Yeah, with him coming back, it's definitely helped them, boost their morale and confidence at the back. But speaking on Toluca, I think they just weren't able to keep that form, basically. And I just think they're going to need to strengthen up their squad for the next season, pretty much. I don't think it's too deep to look into, but definitely moving forward. So yeah, regarding to Toluca, I don't think it's anything too much to worry about. I just think they're going to need to be better prepared for next season, maybe just a few more signings. But now moving forward to a highly entertaining matchup, which was Cruz Azul and Pumas. I know me and Tomas both had Cruz Azul going through because they just looked too strong, and I think that's pretty much what happened. I think they were just too strong for Pumas. I know in that first leg when they played in UNAM and at Pumas' home, they wiped the floor with them 2-0, pretty easy for Cruz Azul. And if Pumas wanted to make any sort of comeback or hint at any sort of comeback, they had to at least score like every 30 minutes in that second leg. And they weren't able to pull that off in the first 45. Second half happens, and they do get an early goal, and they put the game at 2-1. And I'm sure Cruz Azul fans were probably kind of getting a little worried because they've been in that situation before, especially I think it was like recent, like 3-4 years ago, in a semifinal against Pumas, where they had been up 4-0 against Pumas, and then that second leg happened, and Pumas just 4-0 at home, and it was a Cruz Azuleada, which is one of the famous terms for Cruz Azul. Basically, unfortunately, that's kind of what they've been known as bottlers, and I think they've pretty much learned from their mistakes because we've seen a way better version of Cruz Azul today, and in recent years, they've been amplifying their squads a lot more and building a little bit more confidence throughout the franchise, and I think that's exactly what happened on the field because, Pumas got that goal, but then Cruz Azul hit them back with another one, and ultimately the game ended in a 2-2 draw, and Cruz Azul were the better team going on and progressing into the semifinals, winning 4-2. But I don't know, moving forward, I don't know if it's going to be enough to get them to the final because they are going to be coming up against a big Monterrey, a class Monterrey team who all they have to focus on is the league right now. They took out Tigres, but we'll talk about that right now. But first, going back to the Cruz Azul and Pumas game, when Pumas scored that first goal, Tomas, did you, or maybe Jonathan too, I don't know if you watched the game, but did you guys feel like there was any sort of like worry if you're a Cruz Azul fan? Maybe they felt that a little bit of like sense of like, oh shit, like this might happen again, where they completely turn the tables on us.
What the fuck?
Sorry, bro.
Yeah, but there's always that possibility being a Cruz Azul fan where you're up 4 or 5-0 and you still manage to lose the second leg somehow. So obviously Pumas getting that first goal in, even though it was in the second half, it was pretty early in the second half. There was still a lot to play for.
Mm-hmm.
And they get that goal, and I'm just thinking it might happen again because Pumas looked really not poised defensively, but they were really offensively well.
Mm-hmm.
In the terms that El Chino Huerta was doing his thing, these forwards, Gerardo Martinez, I think was his name, or Guillermo Martinez.
Yeah.
Memo Martinez. He was, although he was absent for a lot of the plays, he was really moving and moving well as the center forward should. The only thing that Pumas needed was some mid-range shots because they were kind of forcing the plays wide and kind of trying to force a crossing.
Mm-hmm.
And there was opportunities where the midfielder got it, and I thought, shoot it, and he just played it wide or played it safe.
A little too predictable, basically. If you're on
and Cruz Azul obviously is prepared for that. They're prepared to face teams like that they're just super predictable, and they cross because Cruz Azul has a solid defense. But going to that 1-0, that feeling, it really, although it's happened before, and I thought there was a possibility of it happening, I thought the possibilities were low. Just given the thing that Cruz Azul looked more solid than they did a couple years prior. Pumas looked less assertive, as I would have expected them to come out.
Yeah, like less urgency to win the game, basically.
Yeah, and I mean, the thing is that if you're trying to come back, you can't let any goals end up in your own net, and that's where Pumas lacked. They scored a goal and then they get scored on, and then I think it was their center mid loses his head and just throws a flagrant elbow for no reason whatsoever, and then now Pumas is tied, needing 2 more goals, down a man.
Through the whole game away.
Yeah, through the whole game away, really, because Pumas gets a second goal, that 2-1. And how do they have that 10th player? Maybe they would have defended that second goal a bit better and give themselves more of an opportunity towards that third one, which it's sad to see, but Pumas did not deserve to advance either way. So
yeah, I think Cruz Azul is for sure the deserving one, no doubt. They have been one of the best sides in the Liga, no doubt about that as well. Now, moving forward to what I thought was one of my favorite games of all these ties that we've just talked about, El Clásico Regio. Obviously, it's an important matchup in Mexico, one of the hottest and best clásicos out there in North America. Monterrey team who they got knocked out of the CONCACAF Champions League, so all they have really to focus on is the league. So now you see them like that change of mentality where they're just completely focused and they're ready to face whoever is in front of them, and that's pretty much what happened in front of Tigres, because I mean they went to El Volcán, where it's a stadium where Monterrey does not do fairly well there, but they were able to beat them 2-1, get a good result to take that back home to Monterrey, and yeah, they come out on top.
Yeah, I mean, it was just one of those games where you really didn't know which way this matchup was going to swing, because Tigres had been the bigger team in the city for a while now. They've had they won about, I think it was 5 out of the last 6 direct eliminations that they had between each other, and one of them being a final ending in Monterrey Stadium, and they were still able to get the W and get out of there. And it was an exciting matchup because of the history that this Clásico holds. But Monterrey heading out of the Volcán 2-1 up, I feel like it was just too much of an advantage.
Yeah, a big advantage because you got that away goal and then the standings as well.
Yeah, the away win 2-1. It was something that I wouldn't have been able to predict. I thought the Tigres was going to for sure win at least 1-0 to 2-1 at home at least. Obviously, I didn't feel like they were going to shut out Monterrey, but at least win at home to give themselves that opportunity to get a tie in Estadio BBVA. But that didn't happen. Monterrey win 2-1 at El Volcán, forcing Tigres to look for 2 goals away, which obviously is complicated.
I think Tigres came out with a lot of intensity, and you saw that towards the end, like the last like 30 minutes of the game, they just looked like out of it. Like they had nothing else to give. And Monterrey, they had fresh legs. I think they have a lot more younger players because this Tigres squad is very experienced. You have André Pierre Guignac, who's like 37, 38. Guido Pizarro, who's in his mid to late 30s. Javier Aquino, who's in his mid 30s. You have a very experienced squad who've been there and done that. But when it comes to games like this, especially coming up against a pretty fresh Monterrey team, you need your youth to step up. You need to have fresh legs constantly, in and out of the squad. And like I said, Tigres just looked exhausted towards the last few minutes of the game, and Monterrey just completely took advantage of that. And a player that I wanted to highlight was Jordi Cortizo. And yeah, he got the goal. It was kind of a lucky goal because it was coming off a shot from Sergio Canales, hit the pole, and then kind of just rebounded to him and just tapped it in. But he's been pretty influential, honestly. Like in the games that I've seen him play for Monterrey, whether it's coming off of the bench or starting, he's like that different player. Like all left-footed players, they're pretty technique. The technique is just completely different compared to the other players that are around them. And you see him, performing, getting his goal, and we're going to talk about this later, but the 31 man list for the Copa America came out and he wasn't even included, like when he could have easily been on there. So I don't know. I think Jordi Ortizo is just an underrated player has been in and around the Monterrey squad. I think he needs a little bit more playing time for sure, but I don't know what you guys think.
Yeah, I mean, Jordi Ortizo is just one of those players where he's so talented that he's able to hold the ball, move the ball around, and so precisely because his pass accuracy is so high. I think it was like a 91% pass accuracy for this game, and this is a player that's giving about like 50 to 60 passes per game. He's a midfielder, so he's obviously getting the ball a lot. And I defer on you on the lucky goal. I feel like we've seen so many times where a forward gets like a ball laid out and they just blast it out. You get me, like off of those rebounds.
I just meant look, because like it's just funny how the ball just bounces right to him. You know what I mean? I don't mean like it's like he scored it, but it's looking that it came like perfectly to him.
Yeah, no, for sure. That's really what happens when you have these players like Sergio Canales and him himself too. Who have these mid-range shots. And because the goal comes off a shot from Sergio Canales, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
It's the post, and he's there, and he uses like the most simplest technique, which they teach you growing up, but that a lot of people forget, or a lot of players forget, where they end up blasting the ball over since they see it right there. They're trying to put it in the net so hard. He literally just lays his foot flat out and taps it back in, which is it shows his composure, definitely.
Yeah,
it shows his composure, and it's something that we need in La Selección, because I don't think there's a better holding mid than him right now in Liga MX.
Yeah, especially when we compare some of the other holding mids that we'll for sure bring up moving into the list. But before we get into the list and then just kind of wrapping things up in Liga MX, the semifinals are pretty much set. We got Monterrey versus Cruz Azul, and then El Super Clásico entre Chivas and America. Just quick predictions. It doesn't have to be exact, but who do you guys think is going to go through? You can give me your scores, but just who do you think is going to go through to the final?
Jonathan will go first.
Yeah, go on.
I was going to say Chivas and Monterrey. Just, based off history and the way they're playing right now. Like I said, obviously I haven't been giving too much commentary because I wasn't able to keep up with these past games as much. But, just the seasons I've been having, Chivas is the more favorable one over America, especially with their pass over Pachuca was very, in terms, scrappy. They won not by of course they won 1-0, but it was mostly standings because they also lost 1-0 against Pachuca. And Monterrey, they are a stronger side, not counting out Cruz Azul at all. They are a great side. But, like you said, you were bringing up the experience earlier. Monterrey has that experience. They've played in finals before. West Cruz Azul just played in, I think, one the past few years lately. The one that they won. And I just think Chivas, Monterrey was going to be the final. The winners out of these two. How about you, Tomas?
Very good final.
I feel like, and before I say this, there's some takes that we've done where we've gotten hate. Some of us were right. Some of them were right. Some of them were wrong. And just a message like, this is nothing personal. This is just what we see.
Exactly.
And I honestly see Chivas and Monterrey as well, because although America advanced versus Pachuca, I just don't think it was in the most dominant manner. And the thing with Chivas, that Chivas were able to beat Pachuca at Pachuca, something that America wasn't able to do across 3 games. So given that being the recent history that they had, and then Chivas being able to find a stride versus America in the last 2 games, beating them 3-2 at the Estadio Azteca.
Yeah.
And then tying 0-0 at home. So defensively, they've improved, especially in the recent times. And America has not seen this Chivas' solidarity, especially from the midfield to the back. Whereas America has somewhat declined. Julian Quiñones, who started off hot, ended up with only 7 goals. Where in the first 10 matches, I think he had 6 goals. So for the last 7 games, only scoring 1 is really unfortunate for him, and hopefully he picks up his form for La Selección Mexicana. But this America team comes with very little momentum to how they started the season, in my opinion, and Chivas just has more momentum, where they're able to go to Toluca. Yes, they didn't play as the best, but in Ancelotti's terms, if you shoot 10 times at my goal and I shoot 10 times at yours, but you score none and I score 2, who's really dominant?
Who's the one that comes out on top? Yeah. I think I get where you guys are coming from with the whole Chivas take. I'm gonna be a little different, I guess. Not, I mean, I guess just looking at everything overall, America, I think they're gonna have a big boost in their morale, having scored that late goal. I mean, you saw how the Estadio Azteca just exploded, and I'm sure now they're feeling like, okay, it's possible. Maybe it's not going to be the most beautiful manner as we're accustomed by this America team, where they're just completely just taking over and picking teams apart. But they're still able to get the job done. Essentially, that's what they did, and I think it's going to be perfect moving forward for all in all. I think it's going to be America because everything historically, America has done a lot better against Chivas. And between Monterrey and Cruz Azul, I think the hardest team out right now, especially I think it is going to be Monterrey. So that's going to be my final. I'm going to be predicting Monterrey versus America in the final. So that's just predictions. Hopefully we don't get hate, but I just wanted to be a little different, pretty much. But now going to,
you said history, but in recent history, I mean, in the past 2 years, Chivas has not lost to America in the Estadio Azteca.
But if you look back at I think the recent time they faced off in I think was it semifinals too? I think America just recently knocked them out.
When?
Like two years ago.
I think it was just the last temporada, no? Last year, I mean.
Last year they lost to Pumas. The year before that, Chivas knocked out America at the Estadio Azteca with an inferior Chivas team and the same America team that they have now. So Chivas is stronger now than ever.
No, I get what you're saying. I also get to look at Chivas haven't been scoring as many goals either. I mean, they only got one goal against Toluca.
Yeah, they haven't been scoring, but they haven't been receiving goals.
Yes, I completely
America hasn't been scoring a lot, and Chivas's defense is way superior to Pachuca's. So I don't see America scoring. And if America can't score, how are they going to win? Maybe they'll advance on a tie.
I think America will have a bigger boost in morale, given how the game ended against Pachuca when all hope was lost. Basically, everybody had to count it out. I think even the stadium felt that, but they got that last-minute goal, and everything just kind of exploded. And I think we're going to see like a switch in morale, a switch in confidence for America.
I just don't think a team could be favorite coming into a semifinal matchup.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Where's the first leg going to be at? Is it going to be at the Azteca?
The first leg is at Akron. The second leg is at the Azteca.
Okay, see.
That first is going to be crucial. If Chivas can get a favorable result, more than 2 goals, then okay, Chivas are highly favorable. But if it's a 1-0 or a 0-0, then it's going to be very difficult for.
This is how it would go. If America gets a favorable result in El Akron, I see them advancing. If they don't, I don't see them advancing because America this season at home they've done worse than they've done away. At home they've won 5, tied 2, and lost none. They have not lost at home, but if they're not able to win away, I mean, away they have out of the 10 games played, they have the best away record. They've had 18 points away, whereas at home they come in 5th with only 17 points. So with Toluca being the best home team with 21 and Pumas being the best home team with 21, the best home teams are out. So really the results that matter are going to be away.
Yeah. I mean, also just got to keep in mind that it's a Clásico. It's so hard to predict the Clásico. At the end of the day, it's just what I'm predicting. But
tension between the two teams.
We'll see how that ends. We'll obviously look at that once the second legs are wrapped up. But now we're going to quickly touch on the 31-man list that was put out by Jimmy Lozano. It's not official list, so it's not the official list for the Copa America, but it's these are the players that he's going to take for the friendlies against Bolivia, Uruguay, and against Brazil, I'm pretty sure. So they're going to give him a trial run. We're seeing a complete switch. I don't want to see a generational change because there's a lot of players in there that are pretty high up in age, and we'll talk about them. But I'm just going to run it down real quick. We have the goalkeepers with Luis Ángel Malagol, Rangel from Chivas, Julio González from Pumas. And in defense, we got Jorge Sánchez, Israel Reyes, Garcia from Toluca, Cesar Montes from Almeria, Víctor Guzmán from Rayados, Peña from Necaxa, Johan Vázquez from Genoa, Javier Orozco from Chivas, Gerardo Arteaga from Rayados, González from Pachuca. In the middle of the park, we got Edson Alvarez, Romo, who's kind of questionably there, Jordan Carrillo, Eric Sanchez, Orbelín Pineda, Piojo Alvarado, Luis Chávez, Montaño, Fernando Beltrán, Charlie Rodriguez. And then up top, we got Marcelo Flores, El Chino Huerta, Julian Quiñones, Guillermo Martinez, Santi Jimenez, Alexis Vega, Uriel Antuna, and Diego Lainez. So out of all these players, who really sticks out to you that shouldn't be there, and who sticks out to you that is great that they're there?
Do you want me to go first or Jonathan?
Yeah, you go first. You have more of knowledge over them than I do.
I'll
touch upon it.
So I'm gonna say 5 players that shouldn't be here, just so like the list I think is 25, so it'll come up the thought of that. Jorge Sanchez should not be there. I mean, he's proven time that he can with the pressure being a starting right back for La Selección Mexicana. I mean, he had a terrible game versus Honduras. Prior to that, I remember him having a terrible game away versus Honduras as well. I mean, he's just proven that he's not the guy to go with. And the fact that Jimmy Lozano can't sacrifice him, taking him out of La Selección, maybe he sees that he has some future in developing, which I could say that maybe. But if he starts, I really think we're lost at the right back position.
Okay.
Now, going into Alexis Peña, I just don't think that he's been good at Necaxa. He's played well, but I just don't think it's enough to be convocado. Not just yet. I just don't think he's what we need right now. We could definitely go for a younger player. I mean, Alexis Peña is like 29. We could definitely go for a much younger player.
I would have voted putting in someone like Antonio Portales. Shout out to my boy.
Yeah, Antonio Portales could have definitely been in there. Like not even because he was on our podcast or anything. He's definitely a more solid defender.
And younger for sure too.
And younger. I mean, well, 2 3 years younger.
2 years, man. I'm just saying.
2 3 years younger, but we could have definitely picked somebody else in that position.
Yeah.
Now moving a little bit forward, Luis Romo. Luis Romo should not be there. He can't with the pressure of being a holding mid, not even at Rayados. I mean, we saw him his disaster class versus Columbus. Yeah, I mean, we were pointing it out. Like he in a span of 20 minutes, he touched the ball 20 times and lost the ball. I think it was 9 times, and 11 times he lost the ball in a duel. So he should not be starting as a center defensive mid, because your center defensive mid has to have defensive solidarity and be able to play out well, which is something that he doesn't do. Which he did in his moment, but it's pretty much looks like he's past his prime already.
Yeah.
Another person I touched up on a little bit is Fernando Beltrán. Now, I don't think he's a bad player. I just think that if we're looking for a solid holding mid, maybe he could be a quick fix for Luis Romo. But the thing is that Fernando Beltrán has been having some personal issues where his mom sadly has cancer, so it's distracted him a bit from football.
Yeah, understandably, yeah.
Understandably, this isn't a diss to him where he's like, oh, hey, you should pick up. No, like, this is understandable. It happens. He's been playing well for Chivas despite that, but I just think that mentally he needs his time, with his mom to be able to take this in, to be able to take this,
going on.
just recoup his mind, which is something that's not personal. I think he's still a solid player, which could give us a lot for La Selección Mexicana in the future. But right now, I just don't think it's a moment where he will be able to, given the circumstances. Another person that I think that should not be there, this contrary to Fernando Beltrán, this is completely off of his performances with La Selección, is Charlie Rodriguez. Charlie Rodriguez has been so bad for La Selección, which is he's one of those players where I just think to myself, why does he keep getting called up?
Yeah, a lot of people have been questioning his call up. I know he was doing well with Cruz Azul in the beginning of the season, but I haven't heard much of him recently. So
I mean, he's declined in form. And the thing with La Selección Mexicana, we need to start calling players that are having good seasons right now, rather than the ones that had good seasons 2 to 3 years ago, or in the beginning, or in the middle. Like, we need players that are coming in hot into the Copa America, because we are looking at a generational change. So generational change means like players that are coming in at their best moment when they're young. They haven't reached their prime yet. They're kind of still not even hitting their peak. They're kind of just advancing upwards. And Charlie Rodriguez isn't the player that I see there. Another person that I took out that maybe a lot of you won't agree with me is Julian Quiñones. And I'm being consistent with what I'm saying here. Julian Quiñones has had a drop in form.
Yeah.
he had a really high end in early in the season, but I just think that right now, I'd rather, if we're doing a generational change, I'd rather have a player that's coming with wall form like Marcelo Flores or Cesar Huerta.
Yeah, those are rightful calls for sure.
With rightful form, like these players are coming in pretty good form, and it's something that I prefer over a Julian Quiñones who's older than them and coming in with low form. Now, the last person that I took out of this list would be Uriel Antuna, and again, I'm being consistent here. It's just the challenge that he did yesterday, where he tries to jump up into the ball, or I don't even slide into the ball instead of just trying to finish like a regular 9 would or regular forward. It just, I swear, I was speechless.
Me
My mom was
too.
telling me like, mira que hizo, like look what he did, and I was like, what is he like?
Thinking, what is he on? Like, how do you not finish that? No, I completely understand. And I think that's the thing with Uriel Antuna. He's super inconsistent. You know, he'll have like his 2-3 games where he has like such a good spell. He's has his shooting boots on, you know, or his crossing boots on, and then the next 3 games he's like missing crosses, missing passes, missing just completely just distracted almost.
Yeah, if we had a quarterfinal versus, I mean, if we go get first, we would face like, I think it was a Peru or something like that. Practically like a B level Copa America team. But if we get second, we face Argentina. Imagine seeing a tie 0-0 versus Argentina, and in the 50th minute he does that. I'd lose my stuff. I'd lose it.
Exactly.
And I can't have him in my selection. I don't. I know Jimmy is very fond of him for seeing his process. You know, seeing him grow as a player. But if we're looking at a generational change, which it looks like we are, there's just players that I think that could go over Antuna.
Oh yeah, and I do like the fact what you said is that I mean, like we said, it's a generational change. But do you guys feel like it's a little too like last minute? You know, heading into such an important tournament, like wouldn't it make more sense to do this kind of change maybe during the Nations League where it was a little less to play for? I don't know,
Well, I say,
Jonathan.
I mean, especially after like the whole last matchups that they had. You know, Jamie's going into this like, okay, if I don't do this now, it's gonna be like a now or never type of thing.
Yeah,
And it has to be something where like, in terms of sacrificing the Copa America, you got to learn the best value of yourself just so you're ready for the World Cup. What, a year or 2 years in advance, and so be it. You know, fortunately, we've been a really bad team lately. Like Tomas was saying earlier, we need to call up those players who are in red hot form, not the ones who've been there for years. Because even when those red hot players get called up, they get that loss of confidence. Like, dang, I'm doing really good right now, but I know that when I come, I'm gonna warm up the bench because this guy's gonna start over me every single time. You know, Santi Jimenez and what's the striker's name from America? I don't forgot. My bad.
Martin.
Yeah, Henry Martin. That whole situation, you know, like it knocked his whole confidence, and he hasn't been the same the second half of the season compared to the first, where he was like in red hot form. And that can happen, you know, that can happen for any team. You know, that's the thing that separated us from all the other leagues. I mean, other teams was the fact that, let's say for Brazil, they'll call up the players who are doing the best. You know, everyone's saying like, oh, why didn't they call up Neymar for the Copa America? Well, Neymar hasn't played the whole season. He's injured. Even if he comes back on time, why call him? In terms of Mexico, they probably would have done the complete opposite. To whereas of now, Jimmy Lozano's going with a different approach, an approach like kind of listening to the fans, like, hey, we're tired of, you know, the same old players. As much as we love them, it's time for them to go. We need to find out who we're going to play with in order to not get toyed again. You know, we don't want another 2016 Copa America, you know, 7-0 Chile.
Don't even remind me about that, bro.
Yeah, and I don't want to be reminded about it either, but these are the terms you got to come to when thinking about the Selección Mexicana, because we've had that history. I mean, before that, losing 7-0 is unheard of. Like, I mean, just 2 years ago in 2014 World Cup, we're over here, you know, battling with the Netherlands, you know, to go to the next round of the World Cup. And the past few years, I mean, we haven't even been the best nation in our own, you know, continent. For example, the U.S. has overtaken us. You know, that's a whole other conversation. But like I said, I feel like this is a good time to do it. The warm-up games before the Copa America, see which players play good, which players like the fans receive better, and then maybe switch up a few players. Like I completely agree with Tomas's take about the players that he called up. Like Antuna, for example, like we've seen all those memes of him always cutting the ball back, cut. Okay, pass it, cut. Like, okay, you know. And then there's other games where he'll cut, shoot, or cut, pass, and it's a goal. But like you guys said, that level of consistency isn't there. And not just with Antuna, but the whole national team. You know, like we're going on like on 4th manager like the past 5 years. And I think now's the time to say, boom, if you really want to stay here, Jimmy, and want to get a good squad for like the next 2 years, because the World Cup is going to be partially in Mexico. We got to look good, the best version of ourselves. Why not do it now?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, why not now than later? Why wait? Why send the same squad to the Copa America? Sorry, get embarrassed, and then talk this whole conversation again. Like, what went wrong?
Try to scramble things all last minute for the World Cup. All right, I get you. Because I was kind of like in the boat where I was thinking, oh, he should have done this earlier. But I mean, he stuck to his guns. They didn't work out with him. Now he's probably like, okay, shit, like, well, these guys aren't working out for me. Let's bring in these new guys it's an important tournament, yes, but it's still in preparation for the most important tournament, which is the World Cup. So they're
just like Tomas was saying earlier, like Jorge Sanchez, like, I don't know if Jimmy sees something in them that we don't see, because he spends day in and day out with them when they're training. Maybe him himself being a former player, having his own people around him telling him like, hey, this guy's gonna be good. Let's just give him some time. That's good. Like, these games are good for that, but that's not what Mexico needs right now. We don't have the time to, see someone develop. Like, we need players who are hot right now and ready to go, guns blazing. We have 3 major tournaments coming up in the next 2 years. Not to mention like the Olympics, like in a few years down the line, the players that are young now are going to be more experienced by then. And by then, we're going to want to be, competing with, like, talking about the Brazils, Argentinas. But in order to get there, we really got to build ourselves gradually, which is why I think this is a perfect time right now. Let's just bring in these guys, send out, the old cats already, let them do their thing. They've already had, decades. We've heard of Memo Ochoa since we were like little kids. Like, come on, Yeah. So, that's good. Might do it later. Can't say, why didn't he do it last time? Let's go right now. Try these players out, and let's see how they do in the Copa America.
All right. Well, that kind of wraps up everything regarding the 31-man list. Obviously, it's going to get shortened down to like 25, 26 for the Copa America. We'll see, hopefully, a good chunk of these players moving forward. I especially want to see the young players going in, like your Jordan Carrillos, like your Chiquito Orozcos, who have such like high levels, high ceilings, looking forward to the future. I don't want to see Julio Gonzalez there. He's 33 years old and barely getting his call-ups. Like, that's not the kind of things I want to see as a fan. But anyways, thank you guys for helping us out on Charla Football. Make sure to I'm gonna tag Jonathan's socials down below as well. Make sure to follow your small creators, because together we'll make it big. Follow Charla Football. That's CHARLA Football. And we'll see you guys on the next one. Thank you guys for helping out.